My name is H.A. Goodman, and I'm an author, columnist, and journalist. To read my writing, go to counterpropa.com. To support this YouTube channel, go to my Patreon link below in the description section. To see my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, other publications, go to hagoodman.com. You can also see my CNN and MSNBC appearances warning the world that if Bernie Sanders is cheated, Hillary Clinton loses. This is long before the NSA was moderately confident about the Russian hacking myth. Now, new FBI Director Christopher Wray will be beholden to Trump. Trump will be his boss, just like President Obama was James Comey's boss. James Comey could not find intent, which is why after he listed all the crimes Hillary Clinton committed, he just didn't feel a reasonable prosecutor, whereas an unreasonable prosecutor would try to prosecute and jail Clinton. So in that he couldn't find a reasonable, in his mind, he didn't think a reasonable prosecutor would have gone after Clinton for the email, for the crimes directly linked to the Espionage Act that he explained. She was careless, negligent, sophisticated adversaries could have easily hacked into her account. She did store and receive and send classified intelligence using an unencrypted server, a server that was unencrypted for 3 months. By the way, most people don't know this. Very interesting. The first 3 months of Hillary Clinton's emails are missing. And James Comey could not find intent, or he just couldn't. It's unbelievable. Like, the first 3 months of her emails are missing. Nobody knows where they are as Secretary of State. That also coincides with the fact that Forbes and Fortune have stated that the first 3 months of her email server use as Secretary of State were unencrypted. Then you have 4 years of Pagliano, close to 4 years of Pagliano's emails missing. Brian Pagliano is the guy who set up her email server. How were they able to transfer top secret information and special access program intelligence? But new FBI Director Christopher Wray will recommend indictments. Espionage Act indictments, the same indictments that President Obama used during his administration to jail whistleblowers. I'm going to give you an example right now. I want you to share this segment everywhere. Share this segment, please, everywhere, even with people who say, oh, H.A. Goodman's nuts, Clinton will never get indicted. Whether that person is liberal or conservative or independent, who thinks that, my YouTube channel is just, fantasy. Share this segment because it's going to explain a lot. I'm just going to read you, before I get to Wray's FBI nomination approved by Senate committee. This is today or yesterday, July 20th. Christopher Wray, President Donald Trump's nominee to lead the FBI, easily cleared a key Senate committee Thursday. Democrats aren't putting up a fight. Christopher Wray worked under the Bush administration. He's a longtime Republican. He's very different from James Comey. He's smart enough to realize what the definition of intent is. You don't even need intent. But I'm just going to read you. You compare what took place with Jeffrey Sterling, CIA whistleblower, who was charged and convicted under the Espionage Act with retroactively classified information that had nothing to do with helping a foreign power. He was convicted only because he gave information, he was a whistleblower, to a New York Times reporter. So when people say, well, Clinton didn't want to work with any foreign power, well, whistleblowers don't work with any foreign power either. They don't commit treason. They're generally working with, whether it's a publisher, WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, or a publisher like the New York Times, or a publisher like the Washington Post, or a publisher like the Guardian. They are engaging in a whistleblowing activity trying to expose corruption. President Obama and his administration have gone after these whistleblowers, whether it's Jeffrey Sterling or Chelsea Manning or Edward Snowden, or a publisher and journalist like Julian Assange. President Obama's administration has gone after these people using the Espionage Act. None of them worked with a hostile government. yet they still, in Jeffrey Sterling's case and in Chelsea Manning's case, faced jail time. I will read you. Jury, this is a WBAI article. Jury convicts former CIA officer Jeffrey Sterling of leaking to journalists and violating Espionage Act. People are going to say, that the people who defend Clinton say, well, she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't intentionally do it, but she did, because it's very difficult to rewire existing government networks. It's not easy. That's why she had her own personal assistant, Brian Pagliano, go ahead. And then she used a firm, Platte River, that's now being investigated by Congress. Then you had Loretta Lynch obstructing justice with speaking to Bill Clinton on a plane. Wasn't about golf, Brexit, and grandchildren. That's a lie. That's the original fake news story. And then James Comey himself says, well, Loretta Lynch told me to call it a matter, not an investigation. That's called obstruction of justice. There was a crime committed, and Loretta Lynch was trying to obstruct justice from taking place. With Trump and Russia, nobody knows the crime, but people say, well, let the investigation take its course. They're actually trying to find a crime. That's not the way investigations take place. Usually there's a crime first. Generally, there's a crime committed, and the investigation is whether or not a person actually committed the crime. With Trump, nobody knows what he did. He's not technically under investigation himself, and the NSA is moderately confident that Russia even hacked the DNC. But let's go ahead. I'll read you. And this is very important because Jeffrey Sterling was convicted and serving jail time because of retroactively classified information. Hillary Clinton had thousands of retroactively classified emails on an unencrypted private server that Jeffrey Sterling even himself thinks she deserves Espionage Act indictments. But I'll read you. Former CIA officer Jeffrey Sterling has been convicted by a jury in Alexandria, Virginia, of charges brought against him because the government argued he leaked classified information about a top-secret CIA operation in Iran to New York Times reporter James Risen. Sterling's case was the first case involving an alleged leak to the press to proceed to a full trial in 30 years. The last case involved Samuel L. Morrison, a Navy civilian analyst who was charged under President Ronald Reagan for leaking photographs of Soviet ships to alert America to what he perceived as a new threat. Notably, Morrison's case was one of the first cases where the Justice Department used the Espionage Act to criminalize a leak. Morrison was later pardoned by President Bill Clinton. Okay. Let me just get to Sterling. Okay. He was initially charged with committing 10 felonies, 7 of which fall under the Espionage Act. The other charges were mail fraud and obstruction of justice. The mail fraud charge was dismissed by a judge last week before deliberation. As the Associated Press reported, on the third day of deliberations, the jurors told the judge they could not reach a unanimous verdict. However, hours later, the jury returned with guilty verdicts, and the judge had urged them to keep talking. Jesslyn Raddick, Justice Department whistleblower, attorney, and director of the Government Accountability Project's National Security and Human Rights Division, reacted, quote, "It is a new low in the war in whistleblowers and government hypocrisy that CIA whistleblower Jeffrey Sterling was convicted in a purely circumstantial case of, quote unquote, leaking. It shows how far an embarrassed government will go to punish those who dare commit the truth." They went after Jeffrey Sterling simply for leaking information to a reporter, not a foreign power. So people say, oh, well, you know what, the Espionage Act, she didn't work with a foreign government. That's completely irrelevant. Hillary Clinton had intelligence related to national defense on an unencrypted private server that Iran, China, and Russia hacked into, according to Defense Secretary Robert Gates. It was unencrypted, and her email account was hrod17 at Clinton email. And there was another one, HDR 17 at Clinton email. Well, the email was clintonemail.com. That is a commercial to hackers and foreign intelligence agencies around the world. There were a few communications between Risen and Sterling president. There were very few communications between Risen and Sterling presented in court. No emails presented showed the two ever had communications about classified information or Operation Merlin, the top secret CIA operation the government alleged he exposed. Prosecutors presented documents from 1987 about calling into the CIA from rotary phones, which had been found in Sterling's home in Missouri, and claimed the retroactively classified documents had been moved from Virginia. 1987. Documents from 1987. Hillary Clinton had special access program intelligence on an unencrypted server. She had information beyond top secret, and President Obama used a pseudonym when emailing Clinton. Why? Because he knew that she was using a server that the whole planet had access to. She had 22 top secret emails, and she had born classified emails. They shipped a laptop in the mail. Bill Clinton's aide shipped a laptop in the mail with all her emails before they were retroactively classified. Then you have Platte River, who used a cloud storage firm called Dado. Her emails were in the cloud. This was before the CIA and others retroactively classified emails. She even had emails from the National Geospatial Agency. Maps. You could just go ahead and type in Clinton National Geospatial Agency. Clinton National Geospatial Agency emails. Okay. So spy agencies say Clinton emails closely match top secret documents. So these were satellite photos. You can look up right here. This is Two of the sources told Reuters that one of the reports on the emails came from the CIA. Three sources said the other report came from the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which analyzes U.S. satellite intelligence. She had satellite photos in her emails. Okay, so it's unbelievable. Information on North Korea's nuclear program from the National Geospatial Agency. She had satellite photos of that in her emails. When they say but her emails, they should say but satellite photos of North Korea's nuclear program. Jeffrey Sterling is in jail. Prosecutors presented documents from 1987 about calling into the CIA from rotary phones. Are you kidding me? The government also called an FBI investigating officer's hairdresser to testify about how she had read Risen's book, State of War, containing the alleged leak from Sterling. They stop at nothing. So, in terms of retroactively, these were retroactively classified documents. They even interviewed a hairdresser. And then you have the issue, Sterling, an African American, brought a racial claim against the CIA before he was accused of leaking. So they're probably going after him because of that, as retribution. He appealed his case all the way to the Supreme Court in 2005. His own performance reviews were considered state secrets, stunningly. So obviously, he was doing very well at the CIA. They couldn't go after him for his performance. So they retroactively classified documents just to get him in jail. Hillary Clinton, and this was not working with a foreign power. So one defense of Clinton is, well, the Espionage Act entails that you deliberately try to hurt the country. No, it doesn't. Jeffrey Sterling gave information to a New York Times reporter. The New York Times reporter isn't in jail. It's Jeffrey Sterling that's in jail. And there was zero harm done to national security. Hillary Clinton actually did commit not only Espionage Act crimes, but the whole planet has her server. This is the issue. So, and then you add all of that, and you compare a 1987 retroactively classified document used to jail Jeffrey Sterling, a whistleblower, to this.
Was there classified information on former Congressman Weiner's computer?
Yes.
Who sent it to him?
His then spouse, Huma Abedin, appears to have had a regular practice of forwarding emails to him, for him, I think, to print out for her, so she could then deliver them to the Secretary of State.
We have Jeffrey Sterling in jail for a retroactively classified 1987 document. 3.5-year sentence. And Hillary Clinton forwarded classified information to Anthony fucking Weiner? Unbelievable.
Did former Congressman Weiner read the classified material?
I don't think so.
How did this guy become FBI director, James Comey? He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. How did this guy, he must have been, what did he do to be, how did he move up the ranks to become FBI director if he doesn't even know if classified material was read by people who should never even be near, who should never have even been near the classified information? Anthony Weiner had his own criminal probe. Anthony Weiner had his own criminal probe and was receiving classified information from Hillary Clinton. Jeffrey Sterling's a whistleblower serving years in jail. So you mean to tell me that this new information in 2017 isn't going to lead to indictments under a new FBI director? A new FBI director. And it doesn't matter if Sessions recuses himself from the email investigation as well, since I believe he said he would recuse himself. The guy always wants to recuse himself from everything, so fine. I don't even like what he stands for. Mandatory minimums and being against marijuana, all these things. I don't like what he stands for, but even if he wants to recuse himself from, let's say, the new FBI director recommends indictments, or the new FBI director embarks on yet another, because there's an ongoing Clinton email investigation with Platte River right now and Loretta Lynch. It all leads to Clinton. The acting attorney general or the deputy attorney general or whomever is going to take Sessions, the place of Sessions when it comes to Espionage Act indictments, will be beholden to Trump as well. Trump already has the CIA. He has a DOJ under his administration. Now he's going to have FBI Director Christopher Wray. And James Comey, Inspector Clouseau, doesn't know if Anthony Weiner was able to read the emails forwarded to him by Hillary Clinton to print out. That's insane. That is far worse for national security, because he was already sexting between 20 and 100 women, Anthony Weiner was. The Daily News asked him years back, well, how many women were you sexting? He said, well, it's not 20, it's not 100. Well, that's good to know.
I think I don't think we've been able to interview him because he has pending criminal problems of other sorts, but my understanding is that his role would be to print them out as a matter of convenience.
If he did read them, would he have committed a crime?
Potentially.
Potentially? How do you... So if you read classified information while you're under FBI criminal investigation, and you don't have security clearance for top secret information, and you're forwarded that information from the Secretary of State, you're not committing a crime. You know very well that that's classified information, top secret, potentially, outside a U.S. government network. You're committing a crime.
Would his spouse have committed a crime?
Again, potentially. It would depend upon a number of things.
Is there an investigation with respect to the two of them?
With Jeffrey Sterling and Whistleblowers, it's interview the FBI's hairdresser. With Clinton, it's potentially, we just don't know. We have to give everyone every single benefit of the doubt. Oh my God, we have to give everybody the benefit of the doubt.
We completed it.
Why did you conclude neither of them committed a crime?
Because with respect to Ms. Abedin in particular, we didn't have any indication that she had a sense that what she was doing was in violation of the law.
So if you are a whistleblower and you think you're helping the country by exposing obvious corruption, but you don't have a sense you're doing anything wrong. Is that a defense under President Obama's administration? No. Wasn't a defense for Chelsea Manning or Jeffrey Sterling or the other whistleblowers that were targeted under President Obama's administration. You can't just say, well, I just didn't have a sense I was doing anything wrong.
Couldn't prove any sort of criminal intent.
Where was the criminal intent by giving you're supposed to be protected. There are laws in the books to protect whistleblowers. Where's the criminal intent to give a New York Times journalist who is not in jail himself, a New York Times journalist, information about a potential crime or something the average American citizen should know?
Really, the central problem we have with the whole email investigation was proving that people knew, the secretary and others knew that they were doing something, that they were communicating about classified information in a way that they shouldn't be, and prove.
But they knew that, Comey. Don't be stupid. Hillary Clinton has been in politics. She was the first lady in the early 90s, and then governor when she was using slave labor, literally prison labor, as the first lady of Arkansas. So in the governor's mansion in Arkansas, they were using prison labor. The hashtag is I'm with prison labor, not I'm with her. She knew, James Comey, that she should not use a private unencrypted server. They knew that it was vulnerable to hacking. They knew because they had to unplug the server, and they communicated. We know that John Podesta and the Podesta emails, WikiLeaks Podesta emails, said, well, now I know why Cheryl Mills didn't want her to run. And then even Podesta said, well, I guess we have to dump the emails now. Cheryl Mills says we have to fix this. President Obama knows that she doesn't have a state.gov. How could they not know? It is it's not a government computer. They know that classified. She is briefed. She was supposed to be the most qualified person on the planet. That was the selling point for Hillary Clinton. She has been in government forever. That was the selling point. She's so qualified. So you have James Comey blatantly lying to everybody. The guy is probably one of the biggest liars in American history. Most of the time he's lying. And he knows he's lying. And people want to eat it up who don't like Trump or who can't imagine don't understand why he won. The intent was there. She knew she knew that no matter what, she wouldn't be indicted, because she knew that James Comey was beholden to President Obama. Now you have Christopher Wray, who doesn't give a damn about Clinton or the Democratic Party or anything else. He knows that President Trump could go 8 years. He wants to keep his job. He also knows that new information is popping up all the time. Judicial Watch I don't agree with Judicial Watch's policies, on net neutrality or other issues, immigration, but I do value their work on the email scandal. They do great work on the email scandal, fantastic work. And there's a quote: despite the warnings from security hawks, or despite the advice of security hawks, I still use my berry. Hillary Clinton. Then you have the forwarded emails to Anthony Weiner. That's already Espionage Act indictments. Imagine if Anthony Weiner worked for the New York Times or the Guardian. You would, and if it was Jeffrey Sterling forwarding those emails, those classified emails, he would have gotten the same Espionage Act indictments recommended and prosecuted. Clinton actually harmed national security. Jeffrey Sterling did not harm national security. The entire planet hacked into Clinton's server. It was unencrypted for 3 months. We can go on forever. Give me your thoughts below. The email indictments are going to take place. It's within Trump's first term. Share this segment everywhere. If you've lasted 24 minutes, share it everywhere. Especially with people who don't think it's possible. And especially with people who think, it's just their emails. That's what's going on. This is really bad. You have a crime committed. You have crimes committed. You have the intent. You don't even need the intent. And you have people in jail like Jeffrey Sterling who did not commit the same crimes as Hillary Clinton and didn't have the negative impact on national security that Hillary Clinton did with her unencrypted server with Special Access Program intelligence. Give me your thoughts below. Share this segment everywhere.